First with our legal expert, Deanna Paul, who's here in studio with me, the trial attorney, former assistant DA here in New York. Welcome back, Deanna. So as Caitlin says, it seems like the prosecution, in the term she used there, coercive control, but this idea that Diddy just was controlling everything in this woman's life, in Cassie's life. Pick up on that as they build their case. What did you make of it?
So one of the things that the prosecution has to prove is not, in terms of sex trafficking, they have to show not just how it happened, but what happened to get there. And so whether or not there was force and coercion or fraud.
Right.
So all of her testimony today really went directly to this idea of coercion, like you said. I think she talked about how he wanted to control every aspect of her life, from what she wore to what she did on a daily basis. He had like a security detail show up looking for her all of the time. And that goes to whether or not she felt free to leave and the level of control that he had over her.
So this idea that you're not consenting to something if someone's coercing you into doing something like that, for example, these freak-offs that everybody keeps talking about, she testified to that and described it this way. It basically entails the hiring of an escort and setting up this experience so I could perform for Sean. This is what Cassie said on the stand. Eventually it became a job for me pretty much. Then went on to say she, her stomach fell and she was just so much nervousness and confusion about that and felt like, like she said, it was a job, something she had to do, didn't have a choice. Is that effective for the prosecution?
It's what the prosecution has to do, but this goes back to what the defense opened on yesterday. They talked about the difference between consent versus coercion, and the point of their argument is that, these were two consenting adults, and even though there's some behavior that not everyone deals with on a daily basis, whether it's group sex or drug use or multiple partners, those are things that, while they might make us uncomfortable because it's so far off from what most of us deal with day to day in our daily lives, discomfort isn't criminality. And the defense is going to keep hammering home this idea that immorality is not the same as illegality.
I want to bring into the conversation, Deanna, we'll stay here in New York, Dominic Patten, who is also in New York, but down where Caitlin is. Welcome, Dominic, executive editor at Deadline. You were in the courtroom and covering the trial today, so I did want to get a firsthand perspective of what it was like in there today. What did you pick up inside the courtroom? What stood out to you?
Well, I mean, I have to say, my friend, it's a very, very subdued affair today. Cassie Ventura, of course, has been on the stand for almost the entire day. She's 8 months pregnant. She's clearly emotionally exhausted already by the testimony she's having to give. And the prosecution are taking this in a very step-by-step manner. It's only in the later part of the day that we really saw them kind of unveiling what is clearly their ability to get into the sex trafficking claims, which are really the heart of this case. Up until now, there has been a lot of well, you're a grown-up, grown-ups consent to things, and that, unfortunately, didn't seem to be sealing the landing, or stick the landing, rather. Now we're learning about the sex trafficking, about taking escorts over state lines, whole new ballgame.
That's an interesting observation. I want to come back to Deanna on that in a moment. But one more for you, Dominic, while you're there, is that, how did she come off as a witness personally? And did you notice any interaction between her, members of the jury, Sean Combs? What about Cassie as a witness?
Well, I would say, for one thing, Cassie Ventura as a witness, very soft-spoken, very emotional, crying frequently throughout her testimony. And let's be honest, these are incredibly, incredibly powerful and vulnerable things to be talking about her personal life. There was the naming of a series of the escorts, so about half a dozen of them. We saw their faces like mugshots up on the screens. Her good eye contact with the jury, didn't really keep any eye contact with Sean Combs, which we've heard is maybe the first time that the two of them have actually even been in the same room in about 6 years. But I still think right now the prosecution has a problem. It's not against the law to be kinky. It's not against the law to be cruel or controlling. What is against the law is hitting people and violence. But Sean Combs isn't charged with domestic violence. So now we're seeing if their sex trafficking claims strategy is going to work. The next few days are going to be truly pivotal in this case.
I'll be back to you for one more, Dominic, in a moment. But, Deanna, how does the prosecution get past that problem that Dominic describes there? Because that is an issue. I mean, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these crimes took place. What's the key?
I think it's what Dominic just said. I mean, the defense has really owned some of the challenges in their case already. He was a domestic abuser. He was a drug user. He had a violent temper. But again, that's not what he's charged with. And the prosecution has chosen to bring forward really serious charges, racketeering and sex trafficking. And those are things that are usually used for human trafficking rings and organized crime. And so whether or not they're going to be able to show that this type of conduct, again, group sex, drug use, things that we don't see day to day, Whether or not that amounts to federal sex trafficking and racketeering is a totally different ballgame.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.